Hello, my name is Ramon Bassett, the host, along with producer Brennan Lambert. Brennan, the last episode we began what I would like to call the Introduction to Current Technology series. Our first guest being Tony Dolan, our Executive Vice President of Sales and Access Control expert. He talked about how multi-apartment communities and luxury apartment facilities can benefit from having the right access control solution. But today's topic is the difference between a retainer hour program and a monthly fee-based program when it comes to managed service providers with IT.
Yeah, so one of the complaints we hear about IT managed service providers is the monthly fee. So our guest today, Ramon, is Mark Rhodes. He's the Senior Solutions Engineer and one of the original employees of Current Technologies. His focus encompasses anything to do with IT, including network design, hardware recommendations, cybersecurity solutions, software renewals, and putting together a plan for growth of our clients.
Hi, Mark. Welcome to Cyber Connect, and thank you for joining me. To start, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a background of yourself? What was it like starting on the ground floor of Current Technologies, and why have you stayed with the company for so long? I mean, now it's about 25 years.
Yeah, thank you. I joined the company during the very first year of operations. Starting out, my job was to provide on-site IT support for a number of school district and local government accounts that we had. I really liked that we were able to develop a close partnership with the customer to recommend solutions for them that would be a good fit. And the way that we're able to deliver solutions to the customers and being a very nimble organization, that's the reason I've been with the company this whole time.
Right, yeah, ground floor, you've seen just about everything. And not only you've seen the changes in current technology, but you've seen the actual changes in technology. So that was quite exciting, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot's happened in those years.
Yeah, definitely, wow. So that's why I thought you'd be the perfect guest to explain what the difference is between a retainer hour program, fee-based program, and a monthly fee-based program when it comes to managed service providers, because there is those types of ways of doing business, and so I wanted you to share what those differences are.
Sure, be happy to. So the retainer program basically provides a way for the customer to engage with us and receive a discounted rate based on the number of hours they purchase. So the more hours purchased, the greater the discount. In contrast, a monthly fee-based contract, which other MSPs offer that many times, those end up being a set amount per month, really regardless of the usage, right? With our retainer program, you only pay for what you use, and you've got 3 years to use those hours before they expire.
Wow, 3 years. So that means also that their price per hour is protected for 3 years. So no matter what the rates go up to, if they have that sign, that hourly rate is protected as well.
Yeah, correct. So for the amount purchased, it is. So that's not to say that perhaps in the future there could be a new agreement signed. But yeah, if for example, a customer, let's say they purchased 100 hours at a certain rate, if they don't use all those hours until the end of year 2.5, getting on to 3, that same rate applies through the whole existence of the retainer.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. Well, with the rising costs of doing business, I'm sure that for both parties it will be a benefit. So what would you say to a prospective client that might have reservations about going with an MSP that is on a retainer program rather than the traditional monthly fee? I mean, would they receive the same support and quality of service?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So thinking about the feedback that we receive from customers that have been on a monthly plan with another provider, they say usually that our quality of work and responsiveness is better than what they were used to. And so, obvious question then, why is that the case? Well, it could be because the goals of the MSP and the customer are not really aligned on a monthly fixed fee plan. The MSP, a lot of times, in an effort to keep the costs down, they may not put forward the level of resources needed to keep things operating optimally at the customer, right? Long wait times, and sometimes finding that requests are out of scope and require a separate quote are common issues that we hear people facing with those type of agreements.
Okay, yeah, so they can be, just because they don't see a bill every month doesn't mean that we're not supporting them.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
so they're still going to get that high quality of service, and that's it's good, and gives them. Now, is this just reserved for big projects, or can it be for little things too?
Yeah. It's really versatile the way you can use the retainer hours, right? We have customers that keep the retainer active for things like projects or ad hoc support needs. We have customers that schedule us in a couple times a month or even weekly to do on-site or remote work for them. And all those things can be drawn out of the retainer.
That's good. Yeah, so it doesn't matter if it's I can't print or a major project. If they have those retainer hours, they can be used.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, good. So now, when I'm out there, and like I said, when I introduce this podcast, I'm saying we'll give real life examples, because I'm out there on the phone and talking with businesses, and I do get where they say, well, I already have an IT staff. I already have somebody internal. Why should I go with you? So how would an organization that already has an internal IT staff benefit from being on a retainer?
Sure. Yeah. So we often work with clients that have that internal IT staff like you're talking about. And what they do is they typically lean on us for projects or when they need extra help to solve issues that maybe they don't have time to solve. They may not have the skill set in-house to tackle these things. The retainer works great for that because you've got the safety net of knowing that you can call on us and we'll be able to jump in and tackle an issue right away.
I've also heard from internal IT people, they're like, I can't take a vacation because every time I go on a vacation, I always hear something goes wrong. So would that be something to how we can help support them to where actually they go on vacation and we could kind of pick up the slack while they're gone?
Yeah, exactly. And we do have some customers that have come to us in the past for exactly that reason. For instance, maybe a shop that has just a single IT person. And so management there and the IT person, they come to us and say, hey, we want you to come in and get a little familiar with our network, provide us coverage while this person is going to be out for a week or two. So we definitely have run into that situation.
All right, so if you're an internal IT manager and you've been wanting to be able to go on vacation and not take your phone, this might be something that you would benefit from. So how do we determine, or how would a business know how many IT hours they would need? How do we, when we go to talk with a prospective client and we recommend a retainer, how are we going to give them the appropriate amount of IT hours?
Sure. So there's a couple ways that we can help estimate that. One might be to look at past records or invoices that they have from another provider to try to get a feel for what kind of issues they're facing, what the amount of hours used per month or per year might look like. If that sort of thing isn't available, then another thing we'll look at is the number of employees and the IT infrastructure that's in place. So, basically kind of counting up, the number of desktops, notebooks, servers, switching equipment, just an overall picture of the IT environment will really help us estimate what the consumption should be. And so we're looking at those kind of factors, and we're also comparing it back to like our existing customer base, right? So a customer of X size with X number of employees, we can look at our history with other customers and understand that usually this environment may take, X number of hours per year to maintain.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, for 25 years of history, we've seen just about any size of business, so that's a good way to come up with that if you don't have those other options.
And then the other thing we look at too is any kind of special projects that might be on the horizon. So if there's a desktop refresh, a server refresh, things like that, we would kind of need to take that into account too as we think about sizing a retainer. So, a customer may have, let's say a customer has 100 hours a year that they expect to use for just normal services. Well, if in a given year they also plan to replace a lot of desktops, maybe that year they need an additional maybe 50 hours to do this desktop replacement. So that's a nice thing too, is the flexibility there in the retainer. It gives you the ability to use the hours for any type of project.
Right.
And of course, let's say you think that you maybe overbought hours, and you bought 100 hours, but you only needed 75 during the course of a year. Well, because the hours are good for that full out 3 years, maybe those extra hours that you didn't use, you can apply those towards a project that's coming up, right?
Yeah.
So you're not just sitting on a bank of hours that you feel like you're not going to use for just regular support.
Yeah, that's good. Or something that they weren't expecting that happens that, we can step in and they can use that and such. Now, I've seen this happen where maybe they're engaging they'll become a new client and they're still a little bit unsure about, or they weren't expecting the type of budget that we're able to get them on we got them like a starter program of retainers. Maybe we feel like the best scenario would be 100 hours, but you could at least getting started 50 hours or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times when we begin work with a new customer that had been working with another provider, a lot of times there's a list of things that they want to tackle, things that they feel weren't taken care of before, things like maybe backups, replacing computers, cloud migrations. So oftentimes the first 6 months of a relationship is maybe different than if we fast forward a year or two down the road.
Right.
So yes, a lot of times customers will do an initial retainer to get a sense of what the labor is going to be, and so maybe 50 hours, maybe for some customers could last maybe 3 to 6 months while we're getting started, and then they can get a better gauge and handle on what kind of tickets are coming in, what kind of traffic's coming in for support requests.
Right.
And then we can size something that looks appropriate for them.
Yeah.
And most customers usually try to buy the number of hours that's going to be utilized over the course of maybe 3 to 6 months. Some go ahead and buy up, a full year at a time too, because that would be like the most aggressive rate with a full year purchase of hours versus quarterly, for instance. But it's really very flexible. You can choose the number of hours that's appropriate for you.
Yeah, that's good. And to be able to customize where we can truly, because there's no two businesses alike. I mean, we have the historical to where we know, those benchmarks and what the, X amount of computers and what that, but at the end of the day, they're never going to be the same two businesses, and it's nice to be able to, when I'm interacting with clients, I can assure them they're not getting a cookie cutter. They're getting something that's uniquely designed for them.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Perfect. Well, Mark, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Cyber Connect and for bringing your understanding and insight when it comes to IT solutions.
Hey, thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about a retainer hour program, or you'd like to schedule a discovery meeting to have that conversation about your IT goals, challenges, current network environment, please give me a call at 630-317-3500. 5657, or you can email me at rbassett@currenttech.net. You also can enjoy my weekly technology videos by following me on LinkedIn and YouTube at hashtag IT You Can Thrive On. As I say goodbye, I want to thank our producer Brennan Lambert and our sponsor Current Technologies. Until next episode, be safe.